Hey, it's Caressa.
Hey, it's Maddie.
You're not watching the Disney Channel right now.
You're listening to
Dreadfully Twisted! Hey, we're back.
Dreadfully Twisted's back
Again.
Dreadfully Twisted's back. Tell your friends, and family.
We're back, guys.
Yes.
Any updates on anything spooky or anything?
Nope. What
Me
about
either.
you? No.
I've been checking my camera and nothing has been happening, and I'm like,
Yeah.
come on, make something happen. But yeah, how was your week?
It was good. How
That's
was
good.
yours?
It's okay. It was okay. But I started listening. Okay, so real quick, I started listening to Hollywood Undead. Like, not like again, but like I've been like getting into the mood because I was like, I don't want to listen to like any other music right now. So I put their music on, and then for some reason, like just like listening to music just makes me be in a great mood. I don't know what it is. I don't know. That's what I was listening to on the way here. I was like, I was listening to Everywhere I Go, and I was just, like jamming. I was like, yeah. Because I'm gonna need that after this. This case is very, very heavy.
Oh no.
And it's very long. My research is 67 pages long.
Oh my.
So it's probably gonna be a two-parter.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. But you probably heard of them. They're two killers.
Mm-hmm.
You wanna take a guess?
The Scream.
No. They're serial killers.
Hmm.
You might not heard of them.
I don't know.
The Toolbox Killers.
I've heard of them. Yeah, I've heard of them.
I
haven't read the whole story though, so I don't really know like what happened. I've heard of them.
I didn't know what happened either until I started researching this, and I was like, oh my.
Yeah.
Oh my. Is what I gotta say to this, because and I also like had to choose it because the one guy, you'll see.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you'll see. It's literally in the first sentence.
Okay.
So, Lawrence Sigmund Bittaker was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on September 27th, 1940. That's why I had to choose it. He also becomes a machinist later, and I'm like,
Eek times two.
But he was placed in an orphanage by his birth mother and was adopted as an infant because his parents did not want him, which is very sad.
Yeah.
Lawrence's adoptive father worked at aircraft factories, which required the family to frequently move around the United States throughout his childhood. He lived in 4 different states before they settled in California. Lawrence was his... Talking is hard. Bear with me. Lawrence was first arrested for shoplifting at the age of 12 and obtained a minor criminal record over the next 4 years after further arrests for the same offense, in addition to petty theft, which brought him to the attention of juvenile authorities. He would later claim these numerous theft-related offenses committed throughout his adolescence had been attempts to compensate for the lack of love he received from his parents.
Wait, what year is this?
He was born in 1940.
Okay.
Why?
I was just thinking, like, around what time?
Yeah, he was born in 1940.
Yeah.
The murders happened in the late 70s.
Oh, okay.
So it's not too old. And I also was trying to find a case that wasn't like really old because I have a habit of doing those because I guess I like the old-timey stuff. But yeah, so that's a big oof that he...
Yeah.
Ooh. I don't think that is really like a valid reason to feel things, but okay. Feel bad for whenever he was a child, but I don't feel bad for what he becomes.
Yeah.
Although reports have said that his IQ was 138, Lawrence considered school to be a tedious experience and dropped out of high school when he was 17, with already having been arrested on several occasions for petty crimes. Is that a high IQ then? 138? Like, I don't even know, like,
Wait, let me go back to my last one because I remember I put his IQ in
I think
there,
you said
it was equivalent to an 11-year-old, but I don't remember the number.
I think he was 66.
Was it?
I think. If I remember that, then I'm going to be very surprised with myself because I can't remember anything.
It was 66.
Oh my God. I don't remember that.
That's crazy.
Well, at least I'm good at remembering numbers for some reason.
Yeah.
But anything else, no. Shortly afterward, he was sentenced to 2 years for auto theft, evading arrest, and leaving the scene of a hit and run. He finished his sentence in the California Youth Authority. Upon release, Lawrence discovered that his adoptive parents had disowned him and moved to another state.
Oh. Oh! Jeez.
Yeah, okay. Like I said, I feel bad for the kid.
Yeah.
But also, maybe you shouldn't be doing all this bad stuff. But again, like, that's not, like, I guess theft is not as bad as, like, murder.
Yeah, that's
but
true.
Still, like, you shouldn't be doing it.
Just play video games.
Yeah.
Play Grand Theft Auto. You can rob stores in it.
They didn't have that at the time. They didn't have that in the 70s.
That's true.
And 60s. So, but that's true. Grand Theft Auto was what I played when I was young. I still play it now.
Same.
It's like one of my favorite games.
Me too.
Love it. Not because of all that stuff.
Yeah, no, it's just fun. I love driving around. That's my favorite part. Listening to the radio. It's so fun.
Running red lights.
Yeah, literally. Swerving around cars and they're like, beep.
So funny. Where was I? Oh, only a couple days after being released, he was arrested by the FBI in Louisiana for violating the Interstate Motor Vehicle Theft Act. He was sentenced to 18 months in prison to be served at the Federal Reformatory in Oklahoma. But he was transferred to a medical center in Missouri through good behavior. He later claimed to have had his first sexual experience there, but wouldn't give any details other than that it was with a woman there. After serving only 1/3 of his sentence, he was released. In 1960, he was arrested for robbery, and I said robbery, really weird, robbery in Los Angeles. The next year, he was sentenced to 1 to 15 years in a state prison. A psychiatric evaluation of him stated that he was paranoid and had borderline wait, that's not what that says. A psychiatric evaluation of him stated that he was paranoid and a borderline psychotic as well as manipulative. The psychiatrist also described him as having considerable concealed hostility, which is terrifying that they can just see that from like not even him doing anything more hostile than he has been doing. In spite of this, he was conditionally released in 1963. Just 2 months afterward, he was imprisoned for violating his parole on the suspicion of robbery. Like, dude, just get your act together.
Yeah, seriously.
Lawrence underwent further examinations by 2 independent psychiatrists, both of whom classified him as a borderline psychopath again, and a highly manipulative individual unable to acknowledge the consequences of his actions. Lawrence explained to one of them that his criminal activities gave him a feeling of self-importance, although he insisted circumstantial matters pertaining to his environment and upbringing decreased his ability to resist committing crimes. Lawrence was prescribed antipsychotic medication. A year later, he was again released into society. I also should have put this at the very beginning. This is very graphic. There's some trigger warnings. Trigger warning for suicide. Trigger warning for the R word. So if you do not want to listen, skip this one.
Yeah.
It's very heavy and very graphic. So just be warning you. And I will again say like where the trigger stuff happens. But as of right now, like we're okay. But I will say it before I actually say it so you can skip ahead. A month after his parole in July 1967, Lawrence. I put Lawrence. That's supposed to be Lawrence. Lawrence was again arrested and convicted of theft and leaving the scene of an accident. He was sentenced to 5 years but was released again in April 1970. At this point, just keep him in prison.
Yeah.
Like, he just keeps doing bad things or put him like somewhere where he's like has to be watched or something. Like, I don't know. Due to repeated parole violations, he was sentenced to serve between 6 months and 15 years imprisonment in October 1971. 3 years later, he was again released from prison. In 1974, Lawrence was arrested for assault with attempt to commit murder after he stabbed a young supermarket employee who had accused him of stealing. The employee had observed him stealing a steak and had followed Lawrence outside into the store's parking lot, where he asked Lawrence whether he had forgotten to pay. Lawrence responded by stabbing his pursuer in the chest, narrowly missing his heart. He attempted to flee but was quickly restrained by 2 other supermarket employees. The employee, Gary Louis, survived the stabbing, and Lawrence was convicted of a lesser charge of assault with a deadly weapon and sent to California Men's Colony in St. Louis Obispo. Sorry, that's really hard to say. But yeah, that place. Where, unfortunately, he meets this next person.
Oh, no.
Which is crazy, because, like, how do 2 people like this meet?
Yeah.
I'll talk about it again in a little bit, but it's just crazy. So, Roy is really hard to say. Roy Lewis, I might just call him Norris because it's easier to say than Roy. Roy Lewis Norris was born in Greenlee, Colorado on February 5th, 1948. He was conceived out of wedlock. His parents had married to avoid the social stigma surrounding illegitimate birth at the time. His extended family lived within a short distance of his parents' house due to his grandfather's real estate investments. His father worked in a scrapyard and his mother was a... Oh, okay. I forgot about this. His mother was a drug-addicted housewife.
Oh.
He occasionally lived with his parents throughout his childhood and adolescence, but was repeatedly placed in the care of foster families throughout the state of Colorado. Roy's childhood recollections were I'm going to say connected with memories of wrongful acts. I don't know where I got that word from. Wrongful accusations where while living with his biological parents and of being neglected by many of the foster families he lived with, frequently being denied sufficient food or clothing, which is awful. He also claimed to have been sexually abused when he was in care of a Hispanic family, later stating the prejudice he held towards Hispanic people originated from the neglect and abuse he endured as a child when placed in the care of this family, which is horrific, but like that shouldn't be a reason why you don't like them, like that like race, because like it's just one person out of, or one family out of a whole bunch of families. While living with his birth parents at the age of 16, that does not say 18, 16, Roy visited the home of a female relative who was in her early 20s and began speaking to her in a sexually suggestive manner. She ordered him to leave her house and informed Roy's father, who threatened to subject him to a beating. Trigger warning, suicide, really quick. It doesn't actually happen, but just really quick, it's mentioned, so I just want to give a trigger warning. He subsequently stole his father's car and drove into the Rocky Mountains, where he attempted to commit suicide by injecting pure air into the artery in his arm. Which, I don't even know how you even would do that.
What the? How? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
How does one even think of that?
Well, how do these 2 even think of anything that they do?
That's true. That is true.
Like, they're awful, awful, awful people. I'm just... I'll get to that, though.
Okay.
He was later apprehended as a runaway and returned to live with his parents. When he returned home, Roy's parents informed him that he and his younger sisters were unwanted children and that they intended to divorce when they both reached adolescence. Yeah. That's awful. You should not be telling a 16-year-old that they're unwanted.
No.
A year later, Roy dropped out of school and joined the United States Navy. He was stationed in San Diego in 1965 and was deployed to serve in the Vietnam War in 1969. Although he did not see active combat during his 4-month tour of duty, he was honorably discharged from the Navy after 1 tour of duty. Trigger warning, the R word, so just if you want to skip ahead like 15 seconds, go ahead. In November of 1969, he was arrested for attempted rape when he attacked a female motorist. 3 months later, in February of 1970, Roy attempted to deceive a lone woman into allowing him to enter her home. When the woman refused, he attempted to break into her house. She phoned the police, who arrested Roy before he had the opportunity to cause her any harm.
Good.
Yeah, it's like good that she also like saw it too.
Yeah.
And she was able to react in time. He received an administrative discharge from the Navy on the grounds of psychological problems and severe schizoid personality. That's when he got discharged from the Navy. May of 1970, Roy, on bail for his last offense, attacked a female student whom he had been stalking on the grounds of the San Diego State University campus. He repeatedly struck her on the back of the head with a rock until she slumped to her knees before he beat her head against the sidewalk as he knelt upon her lower back. Shortly after, Roy was charged with the assault with a deadly weapon. He was committed to 5 years imprisonment at the Atascadero State Hospital, where he classified as a mentally disordered sex offender. Roy was released from that state hospital in 1975. I don't want to try to say it again.
Yeah.
That was hard. Like, I'm just gonna butcher this. With 5 years probation, having declared by doctors as an individual who was of no further danger to others. Just 3 months after his release, he approached a 27-year-old woman walking home from a restaurant in Redondo Beach and offered her a ride on his motorcycle. When she declined, he parked his motorcycle and grabbed the woman's scarf, twisting it around her neck before informing her that he intended to rape her and drag her into the nearby bushes. I am sorry, I forgot to put a trigger warning.
Oh. My voice just cracked. Wow.
Yeah, fearing for her life, the woman did not resist it. Although it was reported to the police, they were initially unable to find the perpetrator. However, 1 month later, the victim observed Roy's motorcycle and noted the license number. When she immediately gave it to police, he was arrested for the rape. 1 year later, he was tried and convicted for his offense and sent to the California Men's Colony in San Luis Obispo. The same place where Lawrence was taken. And that's when it goes all downhill. As if it wasn't already.
Yeah.
Like, after, like, all that stuff with Roy, like, he should also just stay in prison. Like, just keep him in prison. Like, he's not going to stop after being released for 3 different times.
Make sense.
Make it make sense. So, Lawrence Bittaker and Roy Norris initially became loosely acquainted in 1977, 1 year after Roy arrived at the California Men's Colony. Lawrence's initial impression of Roy upon his arrival at the Men's Colony was that he was a savvy individual who largely associated with hardened criminals from motorcycle gangs, in addition to dealing in contraband drugs.
Wonderful.
It's like, yep, that's going to be my friend.
Yeah.
Why would you think that? I would never want to be friends with somebody like that.
I don't even have the words to comprehend.
He's just like
what makes you like, that's the one. That is the one.
Right? Like, how? I just don't get it. Like, that's what I want in a friend. Why?
Psychopath personality traits?
Well, yeah, they both are at this point, which is crazy because, like, they both got diagnosed with stuff at this point. Why not just not put them in a mental hospital and keep them there? Like,
exactly.
It would have stopped everything that happened. So they gradually became more close friends and began talking in friendly terms when Roy taught Lawrence how to construct jewelry. Which, like, without the other stuff, that's kind of nice. But, like, with the other stuff, it's like, oh, no. This next part, it just gets crazier.
Oh, boy.
So, according to Roy, Lawrence saved him from being attacked by fellow inmates on at least 2 occasions. So, he said that he saved his life. Twice.
Oh, okay.
By 1978, the pair had become close acquaintances, discovering they shared... Okay, this part. They discovered they shared an interest in sexual violence and misogyny, with Roy also divulging to Lawrence the biggest stimulation for him was seeing frightened young women. Adding to this was the primary reason he was amassed by a lengthy record for sexual offenses. Lawrence, who is not known to have committed any sexual offenses prior to his meeting Roy, he divulged to Roy that if he ever raped a woman, he would kill her as not to leave a witness to the crime.
What in the psychopath is happening?
When I was researching this and I found that out, I literally looked at Jeremy and was like, how the heck do 2 people like this meet each other?
Exactly.
And why do they talk about, like, oh, I like to do this, you know?
I know. Why?
What is wrong with you?
What is wrong with you?
Because, like...
Clearly a lot, because...
How messed up are you to just be like, oh, casual conversation. Let me just tell you that I like to kill people, or I would like to kill people and do this to them. Like... And it gets even worse.
Oh, God.
When alone, the pair regularly discussed plans to assault and murder teenage girls after they were released. They shared the fantasy and that involved into an elaborate plan to murder one girl of each teenage year from 13 through 19.
Ew.
The pair vowed to become reacquainted once they were released.
That's disturbing. Gross.
That's very gross.
What is wrong with you?
And it's like, why?
Why? What is wrong with you?
And I'm also just going to warn you, the youngest victim is 13. The oldest victim is 18. So just be prepared for that. If that's not something you want to hear, I suggest, again, you skip this episode. Like I said, it's very heavy and it's very graphic. So
that's how I feel about the dating game killer. I wanted to cover that one, and then I started going through, like, you know, like reading all about it, and I'm like, this is so much. Like, this is so heavy. And like, they were so young, and that's like the worst part about it.
I just was like, okay, I have to cover this because many different reasons.
Yeah.
I wanted to honor the victims, which I tried so hard to find some information about them, and I couldn't. I was literally researching for like hours, like yesterday and the day before, trying to find like the last bit of information that I could. Yeah. And I couldn't find anything. And I was like, I felt so terrible, but like nothing is out there about them. All that's known is how they got like killed. Yeah. Which is so sad. But like,
sad.
I was also
weird too.
It's like, very weird. But it's also because it's from the 70s, I think. Yeah. But
also, if somebody didn't want that out there, they could have had that wiped.
Yeah, so, probably. And the families probably didn't want that to be out there. They probably want to be more private, which is totally understandable. Yeah. I just was like, I was already so far in this research, and I was like, kind of like, not intrigued, but like, I just want to know, how the heck does this happen? Yeah. How the heck do two people like this meet each other and do this?
What kind of psychopathic brain?
And it's also things like it's also kind of hilarious how they got caught. Yeah. So funny. Which is like so good, but like it's just like always like they're stupid.
Like the last one when Martin Bryant caught on fire after he tried to burn the place down. Good job.
Good job. So, Lawrence Bittaker was released from California Men's Colony on October 15th, 1978. He returned to Los Angeles and found work as a skilled machinist. The work earned Lawrence close to $1,000 a week, which to today would be equivalent of $4,330 as of 2024. So, if he lived in 2024, he'd be making $4,000 a week.
Wow.
I'm like, I want that job. I know. Give me that job. And I looked at Jeremy. I was like, why don't you make that much? You're a machinist. I was like, you don't make that much at all. Why? Despite classifying himself as a loner, he became friendly with several people in his neighborhood, earning a reputation as generous and helpful individual who occasionally donated money to the Salvation Army. Which is like, also, why do they always like appear to be like the best people and then they really are like the most sadistic, gross people ever?
I know.
Because it gets even worse.
Yeah.
People love him in the neighborhood and I don't understand how.
Oh, great. Wonderful.
Yeah. On one occasion, he is known to have purchased large quantities of fast food and wine, which he then handed to the homeless individuals in downtown Los Angeles. But you want to kill people.
Yeah.
But then you're like, oh, I'll feed the homeless.
What
is wrong with you?
Maybe he was like, I have to make myself look like a good person.
Maybe. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Maybe he was like trying so hard that he didn't want people to see.
What is wrong with you?
Why would you even think like that?
I know, seriously.
I don't do things like nicely just so people think good of me. I do it because I care about them, or because I want to do it out of the kindness in my heart.
It makes my heart happy. Like, dang.
It's nice to see people smile.
I know. Can't I just enjoy happiness?
Yeah. Please? But like, wow, like that's so messed up if that's why he was doing it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. That was just deeper than I thought. Lawrence was, this part gets even worse. Lawrence was particularly popular among the local teenagers, and later admitted the primary reason he had beer and marijuana in his Burbank motel was that his residence would remain a popular place for teenagers to socialize. He was 38 at this time. Gross.
Nasty.
I literally wrote gross in my notes. I'm like, this is gross.
Nasty.
You're 38 years old. What do you have in common with a teenager?
Exactly.
Nothing. Just go work and live as an adult.
Exactly.
On January 15th, 1979, 3 months after Lawrence was released from California Men's Colony, Roy was also released from prison and moved to his mother's home in Redondo Beach. Within 1 month of his release, he had, trigger warning, raped a woman whom he then simply abandoned in a desert. He soon found employment as an electrician in Compton. Shortly after, he received a letter from Lawrence. In late February, the pair met at a hotel and rekindled their plan to kidnap and rape girls.
Ew.
But it's like, he's an electrician, so he goes into people's homes.
Yeah.
Which is terrifying.
That is terrifying. No.
And then, like, also, how the heck did you become an electrician after you did all that crap?
Exactly.
After you went to prison a million times.
Exactly.
And how did you become a machinist? How did Lawrence become a machinist?
That's what I was thinking.
Like, you have to have background checks for that kind of stuff.
That's what I was thinking, too. Unless the boss just didn't care.
Oh my god. They have, like, such normal jobs for how messed up, gross, and awful they are. Okay, sorry. I had to get a drink of water. In order for the pair to abduct teenage girls, Lawrence decided that they would need a van as opposed to a car. With financial assistance from Roy, Lawrence purchased a silver gray 1977 GMC Vandora in February of 1979.
It's always the van.
Uh-huh. That's why every time I see a van, I'm like, nope.
Yep,
Get me away from there. I do not want to go to there.
Nope.
The vehicle was windowless on one side and had a large passenger side sliding door on the other side. Or on that side. Sorry. Like, that's also why I don't like vans like that.
Yeah.
According to Lawrence, when viewing the sliding door, he realized he or Ray could, quote, pull up to a teenage girl real close and not have opened the doors all the way, end quote. The pair would later nickname this van as Murder Mac.
Oh.
Gross.
Gross.
Awful. Ugh. From February to June 1979, Lawrence Bittaker and Roy Norris picked up over 20 female hitchhikers. The pair did not assault these girls in any manner. These practice runs were merely a way for them to develop ruses to lure girls into the van involuntarily and of discovering secluded locations. In late April, the pair found an isolated fire road in San Gabriel Mountains. Lawrence broke open the locked gate with a crowbar and replaced the lock with one he owned. Which is... keep that in mind for later.
Yeah.
But it's like, how terrifying is it to know that those 20 girls were in a van being hitchhiked?
I know.
With 2 murderers that were soon to be murderers.
Yeah.
And they survived because it was just practice runs.
Mm-hmm.
What
That's
the
crazy.
heck? Okay.
So crazy. What a psychopath.
Yeah, right? So, we're going to talk about the first victim. And she was the only one that I could find anything on.
Yeah.
Her name is so pretty. Lucinda Lynn Schaefer was born July 9th, 1962, which is insane because July 9th is my sister's birthday.
Yeah.
In Bexar County, Texas. Not 1962, but like the July 9th is. Lucinda was described as a beautiful, bright, hardworking, kind young girl. Lucinda was called as Cindy by most, which is really cute. Like Lucinda, Cindy, like cute little nickname.
I have a friend named Lucinda.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's so cute.
But also she goes by Lucy.
Oh, that's cute too.
I always think about Lucy from Charlie Brown. Like, it's adorable.
That's what I think of too. And whenever I think of Cindy, I think of Cindy Lou Who.
Me too, Cindy Lou Who.
Lucinda arrived in the area only 19 days before her death, which is so... on the 5th of June to stay with her grandparents in their Torrance home. Having just completed her junior year of high school in Wisconsin, she planned... Oh, wait, I didn't... Okay, I did put where she was born. Oh, sorry. Having just completed her junior year of high school in Wisconsin, she planned to spend the summer working and enjoying the beach after leaving one of many temporary homes. Her parents divorced in 1971. Her father, who she rarely saw, lived in Texas, and her mother, a school teacher, was conducting a summer seminar for teachers in Mexico City. She normally lived with her mom, but at this time she was living with her grandparents since her mom was out in Mexico City. She was to move with her mother that fall in Portland for another new home with school and new friends. Her mother had just left for business in Mexico just 5 days before Cindy's disappearance on the 19th of June. Imagine that. Like, you literally leave your daughter 5 days and then she...
That's so sad.
Oh, I feel so bad for these parents. Which was the last time that she saw her daughter. Lucinda had been fortunate enough to find a job just after arriving in Torrance, and according to her grandmother, she really liked it. After seeing a help wanted ad in the Daily Breeze, she applied for the medical assistant position with Dr. Rafael Solis. He was Argentinian, and more than half his parents spoke Spanish. I was supposed to say patience.
I was like, how many more are there?
Apparently it's a lot.
More than half, wow. That's a lot of parents.
So, wow, okay. I can't talk. I meant more than half his patience. Can I get it together? I'm crying. Oh my god. Okay, let's start that over.
Oh my gosh.
It's okay, we needed that before it gets heavy.
Yeah.
But that's gonna get heavy. Oh, okay. Just me and Miss talking like I always do. Whenever we did the spooky games episode, and I said, stiff as a board, light as a feather, whatever I said, my friend who I work with, Jen, she texted me, she's like, I'm dying at that. She's like, how you messed that up. She's like, I'm crying, and I'm laughing so hard. And I was like, you're welcome. I was like, I'm glad I could do that for you. So shout out to Jen, hi. Because you listen.
Hi. Thanks for listening to us.
Okay. Whew. Okay, so he was Argentinian, and more than half of his patients spoke Spanish. Lucinda, who spoke fluent Spanish, was hired and began her 25-hour-a-week job of preparing children for examination, which is, like, crazy. She is... I don't know how old she is. I think... 1962. I think she's, like, 16, 17. Mm-hmm. So getting that job like that young is very impressive. Yeah. Joyce Gonzalez, another employee of Solis, said she appeared to be a great worker and a happy person. Quote, she fit in here at the doctor's office very well. It's a happy place with all the children, and Cindy seemed to enjoy working with the kids. End quote. Miss Gonzalez said, apart from working, Cindy would also spend her time playing the guitar and was actually taking guitar lessons and had that Sunday during the day. She would practice her guitar on her bed. She had a quart fruit jar almost full of nickels, dimes, pennies, and even dollars that was on the top shelf of the closet of her bedroom. The day before Cindy disappeared, she wrote a letter to her best friends. Quote, by the time I get my next paycheck in about 1.5 weeks, I'll have almost $600 in the bank. Not bad for something I enjoy so much, playing with the kids and kidding around with the doctor and 2 other ladies that work there. I really love it. I'm going to miss them when I leave here. End quote.
Oh.
Just so sad knowing what happens.
Yeah.
She wrote about her boyfriend in Wisconsin who called her every 3 days, and to her friend in San Jose who was coming down in 2 weeks to help her celebrate her 17th birthday. So she was 16. Mm-hmm. And she wrote, if things worked out, she would be going to Mexico City in August to see all of her friends there. She, quote, I miss you so much and everything else about Wisconsin. I cry a lot because I get to feeling pretty lonely sometimes. I just tell myself there's no use in feeling sad because there's nothing I can do about it. I just try to feel glad about the good friends I've made and look forward to the future when I'll make some more, end quote.
Aww.
Like, I remember being 16 and awful. Like, this is so awful. She wrote about moving to Oregon. Is it Oregon or Oregon?
Oregon.
Oregon. Sorry. It's spelled Oregon.
It is.
Like, Oregon, sorry. Yell at me later. Send me hate comments. I don't care. I mess up my speaking all the time, as we saw with the parents. Where her mother would be teaching and about going to the beach and the library and playing her guitar. Quote, but I'm always alone. I've been asked on a few dates, but I have declined, end quote. But she didn't mention in the letter she wrote that day that she was going to a church fellowship meeting in the evening, a promise she had made to her grandmother so she could meet clean-cut people her own age. That's a quote. Lucinda walked most places, but on the 24th of June, oh my god, which is crazy because that's Jeremy's mom's birthday.
Is it? That's
crazy. Sorry. Her grandmother drove to her St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church in Redondo Beach. She was dropped off about 7:25 p.m. at Avenue D and Pacific Coast Highway for a weekly team meeting, which she attended only once before. As Cindy stepped out of her grandmother's car, she reminded her that the mother of one of the girls would bring her home. She said, "See you later, Grandma." Lucinda waved at the car as the car pulled away from the curb. She entered the church but did not stay long enough for the 7:30 p.m. meeting to begin. She apparently just walked out. She listened as the rest of the teenagers, most of whom she didn't know, chatted, then suddenly turned and walked out the door. "Where are you going?" one of the girls felt she may have been neglected. "The meeting will start soon." And then Lucinda said, "I know, but I've got to get home." She smiled and walked out the door. Quote, Cindy's basically a little shy and may have felt out of place of the group of strangers, her grandmother later told police officers. She had left the church to return back to her grandmother's house. Unfortunately, only minutes after leaving, Cindy would be targeted and abducted by one of the most sadistic serial killer duos in American history, dubbed the Toolbox Killers. She would be their first and only non-hitchhiking victim. Yeah. Lawrence Bittaker and Roy Norris killed their first victim, 16-year-old Lucinda Lynn Schaefer, on June 24th, 1979. Lucinda Schaefer was last seen leaving a fellowship meeting at St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church in Redondo Beach. In his written accounts of the events that day, Lawrence stated he and Roy first finished constructing the bed the pair had installed on the rear of the van. I was going to say van. Rear of the van, beneath which they placed tools, clothes, and a cooler filled with beer and soft drinks. Approximately 11 a.m., the pair drove to the beach area, drinking beer, smoking grass, and flirting with girls. "We had no set routine," end quote. At approximately 7:46 p.m., Roy spotted Lucinda walking down a side street towards her grandmother's home and remarked to Lawrence, quote, "There's a cute little blonde," end quote. Ugh.
Ew.
Gross.
Ugh.
Hate you.
Me too.
After unsuccessfully attempting to entice her into the van with alternative offers of marijuana and a lift home, Lawrence and Roy drove further ahead and parked alongside a driveway. Roy then exited the vehicle, opened the passenger side sliding door, and leaned into the van with his head and shoulders obscured from the view behind the door. When Lucinda passed the van, Roy exchanged a few words with her before dragging her into the van and closing the door. Using a ruse they would repeat in most of their subsequent murders, Lawrence turned the radio to full volume as Roy bound the victim's arms and legs and gagged her with duct tape. As Lawrence drove Roy to the Fire Road in San Gabriel Mountains, where in April the pair had previously switched the locks. Which is also terrifying. I don't know what it is about like serial killers or whatever turning up the music while doing this stuff. That freaks me out.
Yeah. It is freaky.
Even like watching it like on Criminal Minds or something like that. Something about it just freaks me out and I can't like it makes me like ugh.
I know. Shivers me timbers.
Yeah. I said that earlier. We were eating pizza, or I was getting my pizza, and then Jeremy said something, and then I like shivered because I got like a chill, and I was like, and he was like, you got a shiver, and I was like, yeah, shiver me timbers, and I thought of you, and I was like, yeah, my timbers have been shivered because I just got cold, so I used your saying. Then he just like looked at me like, what are you talking about? And I'm just like, you don't understand. It's a dreadfully twisted thing. Yes, it's a Maddie thing. Despite initially screaming when Lucinda was abducted, she quickly regained her composure. In his written account of the night that followed, Lawrence wrote that Lucinda displayed a magnificent state of self-control and composure. or proposed exceptions of the conditions of which she had no control. She shed no tears, offered no resistance, and expressed no great concern for her safety. I guess she knew it was coming. Or Lawrence. She just thought that if she would comply, you would let her go.
Exactly.
You sick person.
You're gross, Lawrence. You're gross.
Oh, so gross. Like, after researching this, I'm like, I hate the name Lawrence. No offense if your name's Lawrence. Like, it's just, it makes me like, ugh.
Yeah.
Just makes me think of him.
Some people just ruin a name.
Yeah. It's awful.
Yeah.
So another trigger warning for the R word. At the Fire Road, Roy first raped Lucinda after instructing Lawrence to go take a walk and return in 1 hour, which is, ugh. Upon returning to the van, Lawrence similarly raped her in Roy's absence. Upon the second occasion in which she was raped by Roy in Lawrence's absence, she asked him whether they intended to kill her, which Roy replied no in response. Lucinda requested to be allowed time to pray before she was killed, if that was Lawrence and Roy's intention. They replied, quote, "There are no angels here, only devils," end quote.
Gross. You guys are gross. Both of you. Disgusting.
Like, why say that? Just let her, if you're gonna kill her, which you shouldn't, like, that's still, like, awful, like, it's terrible, but, like, you should have let her have her moment. Like, but you're a terrible person, so of course you want it. And of course you'd be doing this because you're a terrible person. You shouldn't be. You should just let her go. Not kidnapped her at all. In their subsequent accounts of the... sorry.
Talking is hard.
Talking is very hard. In their subsequent accounts of the actual murder, Lawrence and Roy gave differing accounts as to who argued over whether they should kill her rather than release her. Each stated Each stated the other argued that they should kill her. In any event, Lucinda pleaded for only a second to pray before Roy attempted to manly strangle her. After approximately 45 seconds, he became disturbed at the look in her eyes and ran to the front of the van vomiting. Yeah, right. You're awful. Of course you wouldn't.
Yeah.
You're just lying.
Exactly.
Yeah, because if you actually felt bad or if it made you feel like any type of way, you would have stopped. You would have never done this. You would have just been a good person. But no, you're not. Lawrence then manually strangled her until she collapsed to the ground and began convulsing. He then twisted a wire coat hanger around her neck with vice-grip pliers until Lucinda's convulsions ceased. She was denied her request to pray before they killed her by saying that awful quote that they said. Ugh. This is awful. Whew. Okay, sorry. Just need to take a second. Lucinda Schaefer's body was wrapped in plastic shower curtain and thrown over a steep canyon Bittaker had selected. According to Roy, after Lawrence had thrown Lucinda's body over the canyon, Lawrence assured him that the animals would eat her up so there wouldn't be any evidence left.
What is wrong with them?
Yeah. Awful.
Poor Lucinda. I'm sad.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm destroying you with this one.
It's okay.
Okay. We're not even halfway through. I'm so sorry. There's 5 victims in total.
Oh my gosh.
Because Cindy had lived in Mexico for a while, police first believed that she had become lonesome with her mother and had gone with her, but the theory soon ended when Cindy's clothes, money, and Mexican visa were found in her room. There had also been no activity in Cindy's bank account since the date of her disappearance, which contained $320, and her second paycheck remained unclaimed at the Torrance pediatrician's office, where she worked from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. each day. Police had contacted Cindy's parents, friends in several states, and her brother, a college student in Nebraska, with no results. She had left home several times before, but had always contacted her mother to say she was all right. Police knew that this was not a typical teenage runaway. So if you want to take a second, deep breath. We're going to go into the second victim. I believe her name is pronounced Andrea. If it's not, I'm sorry, but that's how I think it would be pronounced.
Really, Andrea or Andrea, one of the two.
Yeah.
I've heard both, but that's the name.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say Andrea.
Yeah, Andrea.
So yeah. Andrea Joy Hall was born October 21st, 1960 in Cuyahoga Falls, Summit County, Ohio. Andrea grew up in Akron, Ohio, and moved to Los Angeles, California in February of 1978, which is only a year before.
Mm-hmm.
She was regularly sent letters home. She had no job at the time of her disappearance, and her only steady source of income came from donating blood, which is like so selfless to do that. Like, I know she was getting money from it, but still, donating blood takes a lot.
Yeah.
She left behind a savings account containing just a few dollars. Andrea was last seen hitchhiking along Pacific Coast Highway in Redondo Beach, California on July 8th, 1979. My hand is falling asleep. Oh. Because I'm like laying on my arm. Okay. On July 8th, 1979, 2 weeks after the murder of Lucinda, they encountered 18-year-old Andrea Joy Hall hitchhiking along the Pacific Coast Highway. As the pair slowed the van to offer Andrea a lift, another vehicle pulled over and offered Andrea exactly that, which she accepted. They followed the vehicle from a distance until she exited the vehicle in Redondo Beach, which is awful. If they would have just not followed her, she would have made it safe. Because she had a ride for somebody else. But no, they're like, we're going to follow her because we're awful people and blah, blah, blah. I hate you.
Gross. Yins are nasty.
On this occasion, Roy hid in the back of the van in order to dupe Andrea into believing Lawrence was traveling alone. Inside the van, Lawrence offered Andrea a cold drink from the cooler in the rear of the van. Roy, who had hidden beneath the bedspread of the rear of the van, pounced on her when she attempted to retrieve the drink, and after a strenuous fight, managed to subdue her by twisting her arm behind her back, causing her to scream in pain. Roy then gagged her with adhesive tape and bound her wrists and ankles. They drove Andrea to a location in San Gabriel Mountains beyond where she had earlier taken Lucinda. Oh my god. It's not what I meant to say. Remember my first episode whenever I said that the victim? I was like, that's not what I meant to say. Oh, that was not what I meant to say either. Whew, okay, so at this location, they drove Andrea to a location in San Gabriel Mountains beyond where they had earlier taken Lucinda. At this location, trigger warning, she was raped twice by Lawrence and once by Roy. While Lawrence was doing that to Andrea the second time, Roy saw that he believed to be the vehicle of a headlights. Roy saw what he believed to be a vehicle with headlights approaching. Lawrence clasped his hand over her mouth and dragged her into the nearby bushes as Roy drove in an unsuccessful search for the vehicle he thought he had seen. When he returned, the pair drove to a location farther in the San Gabriel Mountains. Lawrence forced Andrea to walk uphill naked alongside the road and then... Okay, this is also another trigger warning. Then he forced her to perform oral sex on him before ordering Andrea to pose for several Polaroid pictures. Yeah. They drove her to a third location where Lawrence again walked Andrea up a nearby hill, this time as Roy drove to the nearby store to purchase alcohol. When Roy returned, Lawrence was alone and in possession of 2 further Polaroid pictures he had taken, both of which depicted Andrea's face and expressions Roy later described as being of, quote, sheer terror as she begged for her life to be spared. Lawrence informed Roy that he had told Andrea he was going to kill her and challenge her to give him as many reasons as she could come up with as to why she should be allowed to live. Before thrusting an ice pick through her ear into her brain.
Ew, oh my gosh.
Yeah. He then turned her body over and thrust the ice pick into her other ear, stomping on it until the handle broke. Lawrence then strangled Andrea before throwing her body off a cliff.
Wow. That is terrifying and disturbing. And sad. And disgusting.
Yeah. So...
And terrifying. I don't know if I said that.
Oh, you did.
Terrifying.
You did. We'll do 2 more victims. and then we'll stop for part 1 and then start part 2, I believe, because we're already at 50 some minutes.
Mm.
Okay, so the next one is 2 at once, which is terrifying and awful. Jackie Doris Gilliam and Jacqueline Leah Lamp. Jacqueline Leah Lamp is the youngest of all of them. Jackie Doris Gilliam was born March 17th, 1964 in Wisconsin. She was described as a bright young girl. She was living in Redondo Beach, California at the time. Jacqueline Leah Lamp was born October 18th, 1965 in California, and she was also living in California at this time. Jackie was staying with a family friend in Redondo Beach during the summer and had permission to go to the beach with her friend Leah Lamp. They were sitting at a bus stop in Redondo Beach where they were approached. So I'm going to refer to Jackie Doris Gilliam as Jackie and Jacqueline Leah Lamp as Leah because she went by Leah. And this was all I could find about them. I could not find anything else about them. And I was trying so hard. I even was like trying to look in books that I had that was about them. But of course, the books always only talk about the murderers. They don't talk about the victims. So I really wanted to find more. And if any of you listeners do know more about any of these victims, please tell me so I can talk about them. Because I would love to talk about who they were as a person before this happened. Because that's my main reason for why I wanted to cover this, is because to bring like their memory into it. But of course, we have to talk about the awful people who did this too, because it's also part of their story. So, which is awful because these people are disgusting.
Exactly.
Okay. So on September 3rd, they observed 2 girls named Jackie Doris Gilliam and Jacqueline Leah Lamp sitting on a bus stop bench near Hermosa Beach. Jackie and Leah had been hitchhiking along the Pacific Coast Highway before Bittaker and Norris observed them as they were resting at the bus stop. They offered the girls a ride, which the girls accepted. Inside the van, both girls were offered marijuana by Roy, which they accepted. Shortly after entering the van, both girls realized that Lawrence had steered the van off Pacific Coast Highway and was driving into the direction of the San Gabriel Mountains. When the girls protested, both Lawrence and Roy attempted to allay the girls' concerns with excuses, which did not deceive either girl. Leah was 13. She attempted to open the sliding door, where Roy hit her on the back of her head with a bag filled of lead weights, briefly knocking her unconscious, before overpowering 15-year-old Jackie. As he began to bind and gag her, Leah regained consciousness and again attempted to flee the van, whereupon Roy twisted her arm behind her back and dragged her back into the van. As the struggle ensued, Lawrence, noting the girl's struggle was fully in view of potential witnesses, stopped the van, punched Jackie in the face, and assisted Roy in finishing binding and gagging the 2 girls.
I hate them.
Yeah. I'm sorry. This is very heavy, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. We've done plenty of heavy stories.
Yeah. I just need to take like a deep breath every once in a while. I'm just like, taking a deep breath helps like the heaviness.
Yeah.
Okay. The girls were driven to San Gabriel Mountains where they were held captive for almost 2 days, being bound and gagged, which is awful. 2 days of this. It's just awful. In between repeated instances of sexual and physical abuse, both men slept in the van alongside their 2 hostages, with each alternating acting as a lookout. On one occasion, Lawrence walked Leah onto the nearby hill and forced her to pose for pictures before returning to her van. Lawrence also asked Roy to take several Polaroid pictures of himself and Jackie, both nude and clothed, in which the first of 3 instances in which Lawrence raped Jackie. He was also created a tape recording of himself raping her, forcing the girl to pretend she was his cousin and informing her to feel free to express her pain.
Ew.
Like, what is wrong with you?
What is wrong with you?
And why would you record it? Like, why would you do it?
Because he's nasty. He's nasty. And disgusting and disturbing and a terrible human being. Not even a human being.
No, they're monsters. Yeah. They're absolute disgusting monsters.
Exactly.
Okay. This next part is very graphic. Just letting you know. Lawrence is also known to have tortured Jackie by stabbing her breasts with an ice pick and using vice grips pliers to tear off part of her nipple. Which would hurt.
Yeah.
It's awful. Okay. After 2 days of captivity, Jackie and Leo were murdered. At Lawrence's subsequent trial, Roy claimed he had suggested that Jackie be killed as quickly as, unlike Leah, she had been largely cooperative throughout the period of her captivity, where Lawrence replied, no, they only die once anyway. Jackie was struck in each ear with an ice pick and then strangled to death. After Bittaker had murdered Jackie, he then forced Leah out of the van. Upon exiting the sliding door, he shouted to her, quote, this is also very graphic, disgusting, you wanted to stay a virgin, now you can die a virgin, end quote. Before Roy struck her upon the head with a sledgehammer, Lawrence then strangled her until he believed she had died. When Leah opened her eyes, Roy again bludgeoned her repeatedly as Lawrence strangled her to death. The bodies of Jackie and Leah were thrown over an embankment into the caparel. So we're gonna stop there for part 1. We'll do our normal ending and then we'll just start it again. That way we can just get it done today. So yeah, this is very heavy.
Yeah.
Let's end of part 1. Check out part 2 for the last victim. Their trials, how they got caught, because how they got caught is great. It's very funny. So yeah.
And we hate them.
We hate them. We hate them very much. Lawrence, Bittaker, and Roy Norris are awful, disgusting monsters who can go to hell.
Yeah. And they're worse than the scum on the bottom of our shoes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So, if you would like to go to our social media pages to see the beautiful victims' faces and see pictures of them, and if you want to see the awful people too, you can see that too. But yeah, you can go to our social medias at Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at dreadfullystwistedpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to share the podcast, to your friends and family, that'd be great. Yeah, and give us 5 stars on our social medias, on our Spotify, Pandora, all that stuff.
Yes.
And yeah, if you want to share with us your stories, true crime or paranormal, please do. You can email us at dreadfullystwistedpodcast@gmail.com or go to our Reddit page r/dreadfullystwistedpod. You can comment on our social medias, DM us, whatever. If you want to
follow us, like our stuff.
Yeah.
We love you.
And yeah, and we will see you guys next week for part 2, even though Maddie and I are going to do that right now. So you guys have to wait, but Maddie doesn't get to wait. So
yeah.
We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.